Okay. Good morning, afternoon, evening, y'all, from wherever you're coming into our social VR space. Peter, thank you so much for being with me here today. My name is Michaela Ternasky-Holland. I am a creative strategist and impact producer that specializes in virtual reality experiences. I've actually had the honor of both judging the VR awards as well as having projects featured in the VR awards, not necessarily in that order. And I'm so excited to be here with AIXR to have this Ask Me Anything discussion with the incredible Molly from Accenture for their recent project that won the Social Impact Award. So come on up on stage, Molly. Come join me.
Mm-hmm.
We'll amplify our voices to make sure you all can hear us.
Yep.
All right.
Thanks for having
Molly,
me.
yeah, thanks for being here. Go ahead and just start with a quick introduction of who you are, and a quick introduction if you haven't heard of their company, Accenture. Feel free to just give us a quick look at what you do on your day-to-day life and a little bit about the company you work for.
Sure. So I work for Accenture. It's a global management consulting and technology firm. We're in 120 countries with almost 700,000 employees. And I work in North America in our public sector work. I lead our child welfare work, and I'm the executive producer of the virtual reality tool we're talking about today.
Awesome, thank you. For those of you in this space, has anyone seen the project that we are about to discuss? If you have, why don't you go ahead and raise your hands or give us a quick wave since, and if you can't, let us know. Okay, great. Well, I know a little bit about this project and it sounds absolutely incredible, not just because of the work you all are doing in the virtual reality headset, but the work that you're working on outside of the virtual reality headset. So go ahead and let us know a little bit about the program about racism that you all have worked on, and also not just what's happening in the headset, but also how it connects to what's going on outside of the headset.
Right. So we call this tool Avenues, the Accenture Virtual Experience Solution. And it's a library of work that comprises a learning method. And you can think about this learning method in 3 phases. The first is an individual immersive experience in a headset, where we've made some technical choices so that the experience replicates what people are likely to see in the real world in some very intense situations. Once one is out of the headset, groups of users come together for the second part, which is an interactive seminar in which users are have the opportunity to sort of unpack their thinking and notice what's different between how I experience something in the headset and how you might have experienced it, and how I might come to a better understanding of how my thought processes and biases are impacting my decision making. And then finally, it involves user analytics. So you could see how swaths of people are behaving in the headset, and that might drive future decisions on training or learning agendas. So we started this work focused on child welfare and foster care. And it might help to understand a little bit more about it if we cue the video, and then I can talk to you a little bit about how we transition to race equity. So Adam, do you want to cue the video? There's a real and urgent challenge in human services today. Too many children and families are vulnerable. They risk their basic needs not being met, or worse. The caseworkers responsible for making decisions on their behalf are under enormous pressure. It's their job to determine what resources might help a family meet their basic needs, might lead an individual to self-sufficiency, or might keep children safe from harm. We have a responsibility to accelerate the pace with which caseworkers become masters of their trade. If we don't, the risk falls to families and their children. So, we're taking casework training to the next level. We've turned our attention to experiential learning using virtual reality.
Can you please verify your address?
Yes, I live at 1245 Main Street.
Helping caseworkers practice making decisions in real time.
Yeah, I understand. I want to do right by now, so I can't have this keep happening again.
That is the end of your interviews.
It's time for you to make your safety assessment.
We've created a state-of-the-art immersive training experience filmed with real actors and produced by individuals with years of experience in human services. We have 3 lifelike scenarios that help caseworkers learn to hone their skills, uncovering risks, engaging families, identifying safety issues, and performing assessments. In each scenario, the user makes choices about how they interact with these families.
Accused. So you mean accusations that were never prosecuted?
That means no 2 learning experiences are the same.
How did your daughter get the bruises?
I don't know. I mean, she just came home from school
And when the headset comes off, the lesson doesn't end, as the VR experience is followed by a carefully curated seminar in which users work together to unpack their thinking and discuss the choices they made in the headset. At Accenture, we have reinvented our approach to human services, putting our efforts into leveraging better outcomes for families and their children. With Avenues training, we're doing just that. We know VR-based training programs can reduce training time by 40% and improve employee performance by 70% compared to traditional training. This is something they just can't get from a textbook. We've created a powerful, comprehensive learning system, leveraging virtual reality and facilitated discussions for more effective outcomes, better results for families. This is the future of human services training. So that body of work we consider sort of wildly successful, right? It's in use, and I don't know what the yellow bubbles coming up from people's heads means. What does that mean?
They're emojis. I
Oh,
think people are clapping for you.
oh, thank you. This is my first meeting in virtual reality. Thank you, emojis. Thank you. Loving it. Thank you. So we considered this pretty wildly successful. So it's in use in 9 jurisdictions in the United States, and what they're finding is that really remarkable things like the state of Indiana reduced worker turnover by 32% in the first year of use of this tool. That people are feeling more prepared for the field, more confident, and more connected to their organization. So that was a very some real positive impacts. They also find people more eager to come to training, where before they had to drag them kicking and screaming. And so we were thinking, well, this is pretty great. And then George Floyd was murdered. And we decided to turn our full attention to how we might use this very approach to increase race equity. Now, this scenario, and this is the one where we're so grateful to have gotten this award for, it works a little differently. So here you put the headset on and you go to visit the home of a 13-year-old boy named Tori. And Tori's home life is complicated. It turns out he identifies as gay. That's not working for his dad. There may have been some violence between them. His mom is a little nutty. It's very intense, very engaging. You are completely absorbed in this story. At the end of your time with this family, you're asked a set of survey questions. Things like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how angry was the mom? On a scale of 1 to 10, how threatening was the dad? That kind of thing. Only after that you get the big reveal that, in fact, there was not one family. There were 2. And you were randomly sorted to one or the other when you put the headset on. These families are largely identical. They have the same names. They're wearing the same clothes. They live in the same house. They're delivering the same lines with precision. There's a single difference between them. One family is Black, and the other family is white. So now imagine, because folks were randomly sorted, what happens when people walk into a seminar. Half of the people walking into the seminar had this entire experience, only saw a white family, and half of the people walk into the seminar, saw the entire experience, but only saw a Black family. And the opportunity then for them to unpack, and what was the difference between the 2? And how did we experience them differently? How did we interact with them differently? One really helpful thing that we're able to provide because of user analytics is a window into how people behaved in the headset. And what we're finding is that the literature on race bias is leaping off the page. So, for instance, regardless of the demographic of the user, we are 2.5 times more likely to behave empathetically to the white family. We are 3 times more likely to experience the mom as angry when she's played by a Black woman. we are 2.5 times more likely to experience the dad as threatening when he's played by a Black man. And interestingly enough, when asked the question on a scale of 1 to 10, when asked the question, what did you think was the income level of the family? We are 4 times as likely to think the Black family was middle class. Now, this is very interesting because, of course, the only way any of us in the headset would have developed an opinion about that is by looking at the clothes they were wearing, at the personal effects they had around their home, that sort of thing. Remember, they're wearing the same clothes. Their houses, it's the same house. They're not identical houses. It's the same set. So what's so fascinating about it is when we saw a Black family living in that situation, we thought it was middle class. We thought it was good enough. But when we saw a white family in the very same situation, we thought they were poor. We thought it was inadequate, right? We can think of these as soft bigotries that are present in our culture. And what we are doing by carefully managing the seminar is enabling people to nudge their bias, a thing that is in all of us, to the surface of their consciousness so that they can imagine, so that they can come to see that we have more time between stimulus and response than we think we do, right? We have time. Stop and think. What am I going to say next, and how could that be experienced by the person to whom I'm speaking? Our point of view is that it's so important that we're talking about race equity at the concept level. Black Lives Matter. It's so important that we're talking about it at the policy level, things like voting rights. But if we don't also take it up at the level of the transaction, at the level of the micro interactions between you and me, then we will look back on this time in another 20 years, remembering that we almost had a chance to do something about race equity. Instead, if we can also all change our behaviors, then we stand a chance at closing our gaping racial wound. That was a long explanation, but is a complicated construct. So I appreciate you guys letting me unpack it for you for a minute.
I thought that was fantastic. Thank you.
Oh, thanks.
So as someone who has been awarded the VR Social Impact of the Year award, first and foremost, this is, I believe, the first year the VR awards had this category. And so that's kind of a mouthful, right? VR social impact. I am someone who works very closely in social impact and the work that virtual reality can do in social impact, but potentially folks out in our audience are not as familiar. So can you define for us social impact? Can you define for us what you kind of see as social impact?
Wow, that's a mouthful. I can try. And then I'd love for you to weigh in as well. So I think of it as giving individuals an opportunity to reflect on their own behavior and get a hold of themselves. Now, don't get me wrong, social impact can mean lots of things. Like social impact can be, we planted 600,000 trees, right? That would have social impact, right? My work is really in the context of these minute-to-minute human behaviors and these minute-to-minute interactions, how we're treating each other, so that we can cease a time when we're thinking that social impact is something that's happening over there, something that those people should do, right? And it's more, it's a look in the mirror. What am I doing? What could I do? What might I do that could have a different result? How do you think about social impact?
I think when I think about social impact, it's taking real world life and having people kind of, like you say, reflect it back to themselves as where they are situated in that time and place with whatever topic we're talking about, with whatever topic we're sharing. And what social impact, I think, also implies is a real world action forward, right? A real step. Whether you're sitting in a seminar having a training, or if you're just someone who is a VR enthusiast and suddenly you find yourself being able to connect with a larger community around the project you saw, and now suddenly there's action being taken to make steps towards bettering the world. Ideally, it's bettering the world. That to me is like sort of that level of social impact.
I like that
And
bettering
it
the
can be
world. That's a good one.
yeah. And what I love about the idea of VR social impact, right? I think so many people who work in VR, we're really focused on the tech. We're really focused on the headsets. We're really focused on getting in the headsets. But what I love about VR social impact is being in headset reconnects us back to being socially enabled to make an impact in our real day lives. We're doing with avenues. So that being said, what are some of the ways, besides just some of the data that you shared with us, what are some of the ways that you feel and you know and you understand that the work you're doing is still forwarding this idea of impact? And after that, we will open up for the Ask Me Anything. But
Oh,
I
yeah.
would just love to
Great.
know for you, like the impact it's had on you, even maybe if watching people go through this seminar, or feedback you've gotten from clients that have hosted this seminar, or
Mm-hmm.
creating or the producing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
where are you seeing the impact happen on a human level?
Well, I think that there were ways that I experienced it with our first set of scenarios. Things shifted with this one. This is, we've referred to as Tori's home visit. The 13-year-old's name is Tori. And I think so I spent my whole career in social services trying to drive better outcomes for vulnerable families and children in my country. And I am now of the opinion that we cannot claim to want better outcomes for children and families if we're not also talking about race equity. You can't, it's just not possible, because the color line in the United States is so damning. So I think that the way I experience the work we're doing now is, it feels so important to me that we're creating this on-ramp to groupthink in a way that does not shame or blame or indict anyone, because that is a really popular activity in America right now. Everything is so polarized and we're so busy arguing and hating on each other. And I don't think that's going to have the kind of impact that I seek. And so I feel like this approach means people can step into space openly, honestly, and with a group of people, they can create a container for change. And I've been in many of the seminars, been with many of people that've gone through the headset, and that I can see it changing them is an extraordinarily breathtaking experience.
Yeah, and what I love about it too is the idea of, yes, you're using the technology of VR for the full immersion factor, but you're not necessarily using the latest and greatest volumetric technology. You're not exactly using the latest and greatest Unity, Unreal software to create a computer enginized version of this simulation. You work in human resources and you work to better people's understandings of the human nature. So the idea of using real life humans, real life actors, real life sets, making sure that the power of voice was a huge part of the experiences you all built, where you had people actually saying things aloud, not just pointing and clicking, right? There wasn't that distancing of people and their decisions. They were really taking ownership of their decisions by using their own voice. And I think that idea of social impact sometimes get lost in VR creation because people are so focused on the technology and what can the technology do versus how can the technology best service the people we are trying to make an impact for, right? And that can be sometimes just using traditional 360 video or traditional video and compositing that into 360 sets, and then a simple AI voice recognition software, which to us, might seem like, well, you could have done more, but it wasn't necessary to do more in headset as much as it was to make sure those people felt taken care of in the seminar after they watched the experience in headset, right? Like I think that the power of this piece is the prioritizing you all did as creators and change makers.
Yeah, I think that's very interesting. And we got a bunch of pressure early on from technologists who said, oh, it'd be much better if you put this on the platform and go to computer generated images. To which I said, yeah, only the problem is for the front line that we're trying to help learn, they don't see computer-generated images at all during their day, right? They see people. And they also don't use clickers. So how am I going to meet my interest of replicating something they're going to experience out there in the world if I take those shortcuts? And it is something about which we've had to be constantly vigilant, because to get through a process like this, like I wouldn't do a seminar with more than 20 people in it. Right. And so if I'm going to, in a day, get 20 people through a scenario, and then in the morning and then in the afternoon, bring them for a seminar, there is a pacing of that matters. And many people will come and say, oh, but wouldn't it be better if we just put it on a screen? Yes, it would be easier on a flat screen, but careful now. You put it on a flat screen, you now have everyone in a passive activity, right? Where they are not inside this experience. They are not having the sense that I'm sitting across the table asking someone a question and looking them in the eye, and they are going to answer me. All is lost if we take those easy way outs, in my opinion.
The constant work that I feel like maybe we're doing in social impact is quality over quantity. And so often everything is quantity, right? Like we want to get 1,000 people through, or we want hundreds of people to get through this seminar. We call it love and shove in the theme park industry. And quality, I think, is one of the most important ingredients when it comes to social impact. And not just talking quality of the experience and headset, but the quality of the experience of the headset-based moment and the external headset-based moment. Because again, they're both connected when you're talking about social impact. And I really think that's what made this project the strongest, and of course the award winner this year, is because it's so much wasn't just focused on what's happening in headset, but also the care and time and energy they took with their audience once they exited the headset, and how they were able to continue the dialogue moving forward. And I think that's great. Thank you. Let's open it up to our incredible audience members for some questions, if that feels good. I know we're about 30 minutes in. I'm going to allow audience members to have on-air megaphone access. So I'm going to choose on our first folk. Your name begins with D. I believe it's Diana. Let's see if I can do that. All right, Diana, you now have megaphone on-air access. Hello, hello. No, maybe later. Oh. Nope. Okay. Number 2 on our list is Jim. So Jim, I'm going to give you on-air and megaphone access. Hello, hello.
All right. Can you hear me?
Oh.
Hey.
Yeah.
Hi there. Question is about the Quest 2. Is the team looking at any additional benefits that could be accomplished using hand recognition or the capabilities of the headsets like the Quest 2 as compared to the Quest 1? As like a next follow-up project?
That is a great technical question that I would have to get some more of my technical people involved in. I'm really drive content, and I'm not a technologist, but I don't know, Michaela, if you have a sense about the
technology. It seemed to me in your video you all were using Oculus Go headsets, which is an older form of the Oculus. Do you know if you're using any newer form of the Oculus headsets, or still using Go headsets?
No, we're not. The Go was given a sunset, so of course we're not on the Go anymore because you can't get that stuff supported on their store. We transitioned to a headset called the Pico, which is so that's been successful for us just because it's not a thing that like a single person goes to get off the store, but rather our clients are like state government, and so they're doing it at a business scale. Made a little more sense to us, and so that that's been working fine. We've been on the Pico, I think, for more than 6 months.
Oh, excellent. I'm familiar with the Pico. That's a Quest 2 equivalent of certain models. Thank you.
For sure.
Thank you. Our next member of the audience starts with H. Haggai. I don't want to butcher it. I think it's Haggai. You now have on-air megaphone.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Hi.
Yes.
We can. Can you give us? Oh, there you are. Give us a little wave in the front row. Hiya.
Hi, yeah.
Yep, I see
Nice
you.
to meet you. And yeah, my name is Hagai Goldfarb. I'm director of XR at SIA Partners. And first of all, congratulations on winning the awards. That's really great. We are actually, by the way, I was a producer and co-director of another project at the VR Awards of the AXR, which is called The Magical Flight, which was one of the nominations. And by the way, we just won the Pollies for the Experience of the Year on that one. But anyway, congratulations. And my question is specifically about the experience. And to that, I want to kind of ask you about the shareable experience itself. And you mentioned, you talked about Tori and the engagement with the family. And I'm kind of wondering here in terms of ability to interact with within the context of a social experience that you intend to make it impactful. How do you manage? So we are talking about eye-to-eye interaction as one of the first things that are so important for an experience. So being able to have the emotional and subliminal and subconscious connection is just paramount for the experience. How do you manage to get beyond the barriers of VR, wearing a headset, being in an avatar? How did you
Say
get
that last
through
word
that?
again. I'm sorry, you broke up. I heard, how do I get beyond the boundaries of VR?
Beyond
Say
the
that last sentence.
boundaries of VR, in the limitation of the technology, you have to present yourself to an avatar or being in a headset. How do you go to this in a context of keeping that, whatever that kind of direct interaction of in-person, eye-to-eye, typically would allow you to create that bond or the communication that you need to have with family or whoever in the social culture, we think is so important. How did you manage to do that in a context of that experience?
It's a great question, and there's sort of multiple things that we did. So to be clear, when you are in the headset of our experiences, you do not have an avatar. You just feel like you're standing in someone's house, right? So you
Okay.
don't, like, I don't have to, you don't
Got it.
see, right now I can see my blue hands. You don't see that. You're just like in the house. We film, when one films actors on green screen, they're of course breaking the fourth wall. They're looking right at the camera as they're delivering their lines. That's why when you're sitting across from them, it feels like they're looking right at you. And the so
you
the
answer that. That's great.
yes, but I want to
Mhm.
say something else, that there's something about this is narrative storytelling, and so bringing people in who know how to write narrative storytelling, because that is a discrete skill. And I think of it this way: if I had an appendicitis, I would not go try to find an airline pilot or a chef. I'd go find a surgeon. If I'm trying to make a narrative film, I'm going to go find a screenwriter, and I'm going to go find a director that knows narrative filmmaking. And those people are so adept at turning a phrase when they're writing, and so skilled at evoking from the actors the intensity of the reaction we're trying to get. What that means when you're filming is, if I want a character to, if I want to film a character giving answer X, then the director actually has them give answer X 20 times. Okay, now do it like you're sad. Okay, now do it like you're really mad. Okay, now do it like I just told you I'm gonna take you out and back and bury you in the yard. Like, now do it like you're joyful. Now do it like you just fell in love, until you end up with a whole bunch of clips, and then you can say, and which one of these feel right? And how do we get them collected together to make a cohesive story? Does that make sense?
That's wonderful. And yeah, and I love what I heard. And we did something similar because you did the canned video, and I'm actually curious because we use green screen studio the same way at the Magical
Mhm.
Flight. And I'm curious here, did you use, so when you were shooting, were you using sort of a 360 cinema to be able to do this? So did you create the whole environment in real life, or did you create like a CG base And I'm just kind of,
No.
I just want to get a sense of that experience.
We shot a live location. We like rented someone's home or an Airbnb
Just like-
and we dressed it. We dressed it with specificity.
That's great. Thank you so
Yep.
much. It's wonderful.
For sure.
And I haven't done Tori's home, but I have done the first one you all did about child welfare
Sophia,
with the
yeah.
young Sophia.
Huh?
And from what I remember, it didn't feel like I was being taken away from it, because when I looked down, I saw sort of the chair I was sitting in. When I looked down, I saw the desk of where all of my prompts were sort of unfolding in front of me, very like, if anyone here has seen Terminal 3, which was like a hologram based, but audio still based experience where your prompts sort of were given to you. So you're kind of given prompts of what to say, but you're given the option of of which of those prompts to say. But I remember being in that home and even looking behind me, the full
Yep.
set was still behind me, right? And even though it was shot in like a 2D cinematic lens, there's definitely some rendering and some like compositing that happened to make sure it still felt like a 360 set.
That's right. That's right. Yep.
So still fully immersive. We're not just like looking at sort of a 2D screen inside of a 3D environment.
Oh no.
But it's really like it feels like a true interactive 360 video experience.
You will believe you are in these people's homes.
I felt that way too when I did Sophia's. We have another, just for my audience, just a quick reminder, if you'd like to ask a question, if you look to the right of your main menu, so AltSpace has sort of their main menu, it's in a big circle with the AltSpace logo in the middle. If you look to the right of that main menu, there are two small bubbles. Those two small bubbles are raise hands and host tools. Raise hand is what you can select if you would like to ask a question. Once you raise your hand, I can then give you megaphone opportunity, which will allow your audio to be megaphoned out to the rest of the audience. And it will allow Molly and I to hear your question. So I'm just going to go to our next human or avatar. So Mitch, you are next. I'm going to put you on air and megaphone. Stand by. Awaiting consent. Okay.
Hi there.
Hey, Mitch.
Can you hear me okay? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Molly, thanks very much. That was so interesting. I'm working on a project at the moment which feels like it's kind of a next door neighbor of the material you're working on there. It's to do with teaching early childhood education, care workers, et cetera, and also retraining them as well. So one of those things where, you know, the affinity with people is a really important part of it. I've just got a question about the platform that you use. I know I'm not going to pitch it as a technical question as such, but you're saying that the platform that you use allows you to get a lot of data from the back end. And
Correct.
Because we're sort of trying to develop what is essentially a kind of training experience as well, I was curious to know, is that really, is that analytic process in the back end quite complicated, or is it something that, you know, the data is easy enough to integrate with other systems? Is that something that, and is the platform that you used something that is even open to other people to use?
So that last question I don't know the answer to, but the firm that we partner with is a firm out of New York called Moth to Flame. And they own a platform called Promise VR that enables these user analytics. I don't think there's anything easy about analyzing data or visualizing it. So I don't think it's easy. But what we do is both give all of our clients the opportunity to, here's a quick sign on and you can see visualized for you how people are behaving in the headset. You could also download raw data. And if you wanted to take that raw data and dump it into Tableau or some other source to analyze it, you should feel free. Is that responsive to your question?
I'm going to give Mitch, sorry, there was a little bit of a feedback, so I'm going to actually give Mitch megaphone privileges again. Stand by. There we go. All Sorry, Mitch,
about
there was
that.
just a bit of a feedback. No, no worries. I just want to make sure we could all
It's,
hear your question get answered.
It's nearly time to take the kids off to school. Sorry, my house is a bit noisy. I was going to ask you quickly, some of the videos that you showed just there, are they visible on your YouTube channel? I'd like to be able to share that around and sort of socialize the idea to a few other people.
Yes, we have a website that is, maybe Adam can make sure everybody gets it after this. I can make sure you have a link to the website.
Yeah. I mean, I can
if
probably
you remember,
find
it's
it.
accenture.com/avenues.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple.
Thank you very much. Thanks so much,
Yeah,
Molly.
thank
That was
you.
really brilliant to watch. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Awesome. So just a reminder to the audience, if you'd like to ask a question, you just click the raise hand tool. Oh, we've got a question. Hi. Go ahead. You can give in microphone privileges again. Hello? Okay. Trying again. Nope. Okay. Anyone else in the audience? Questions? I can also keep talking to Molly as if questions kind of trickle in or come up. Oh, I see a hand wave in the back. Let's see. Kay Ferris. I can't give you microphone privileges right now, but if you request just the raise hand bubble, it's to the right of your main menu button. If you give me a raise hand, I can then add your question. There we go. Gotcha. Kay Ferris, you have been given megaphone privileges. Hello?
All right. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes, hi.
You're on the mic.
Excellent. Thank you. So this is a really great presentation. And, one of the things I'm taking away, there's a lot of effort and thought that was put in to create this really high quality immersive experience. And what I'm curious is how did you then take that experience you created and then serve it up to the individuals you wanted to show it to? Is there some kind of special VR application you just kind of launched on a desktop or a set of headsets in a in-person setting, or did you use a platform like Altspace VR? I'm just kind of curious how you actually distributed the immersive experience once you've created it.
Well, so how I share it is I come over to wherever you are with my headset and say, here's how this works, and let me talk with you about it, and let's get you through this experience. When we want to distribute it to our clients, we're stepping into a part of the conversation that I have a very basic understanding. So we use MDM to push the scenarios on the software to the headsets that we have given to our clients, right? And so we enable them with a sort of subscription service, think like Netflix. They subscribe to a scenario and we give them, for the duration of their subscription, unlimited access. We give them the hardware, we give them unlimited access to the software. We teach them how to do a seminar, and then we give them access to user analytics.
Got it. Thank you.
Responsive? Yeah, okay, good.
Yeah, one thing I remember us talking about, Molly, was about the train the trainer kind of style of impact you all are doing. Can you give us a quick brief around sort of that? So like, obviously Molly's company is not going to every single client and hosting the full seminar, but what they're doing is equipping different people from each company that they are doing outreach to be the trainer. But there's that train the trainer process. Could you talk a little bit about that and a little bit of what that would look like if someone was interested in becoming sort of a trainer with of this content? Let's say they have all the budget in the world to pay the Accenture fee.
Yeah. Ours is a story of enablement. What we wanted was not to do something that was hard to get, exorbitantly expensive, and hard to deploy. We get into a working relationship with our clients within a couple of weeks of signing a subscription agreement. they're off and running. Right, so we're delivering the hardware, we're turning on the faucet for the software, and we come in to do this train the trainer model, as so that they are equipped to deliver that with the speed and frequency they choose without being dependent on us. One thing that's a really added benefit of this is the thing you see in the headset is in a box. It's baked. We're not going back to modify it, right? Because that's like hard and expensive and time consuming. The seminar curriculum is eminently customizable, and each one of our clients has used it in ways that they know are for their organizations. And so there's this sort of interesting byproduct where we're giving them the content that we have, so explicitly those things can be learned and studied, but we're simultaneously building their organization's ability to facilitate complicated conversations. And who knows all the places that may lead them. Each of them is taking up the use of avenues in different ways, some of which had never occurred to me when we designed it. So it's a sort of a constant learning process. We're all constantly learning from each other.
I love that. And honestly, that's really strong, what we would sort of quote unquote call impact strategy, right? Like, you know, you can create the VR experience and make sure that that VR experience is the most robust narrative experience, the best composited CGI experience or real world filmed experience, with the interactivity and the activation itself being totally seamless, right? Because that's a big part. Like if a lot of your clients put the headset on and there was bugs with audio or bugs with this, you know, that kind of friction to get people through the experience, versus the work well I've done is make it as seamless as possible, get them in there and get them started, but then to allow it to be a larger impact strategy where it's not just, oh, what's going on in the headset is all that we can manage, but actually being able to give them a framework within the seminar, within the sitting down and talking to people as a whole who have all gone through this shared VR experience, starting the conversation there, but then allowing the framework of the seminar to be shifted, molded, changed to whoever that client or whoever the audience is. It's a really incredibly strong impact strategy to have, and it allows the piece to remain evergreen for fairly much a long time, because it's not just, oh, we already did that. You know, what else do you have? It's, we already did that, but you know, we have a new group of trainees coming in, and this group of trainees has this background, or this group of trainees has this issue that they've been dealing with. How can we frame this VR experience around their specific issue, right?
Yep. Very well
Awesome.
said.
I've got a couple more folks. Just to let everyone know, time management, we have about 10 minutes left, so I'm going to probably make sure that we get to anyone who has last questions. But before I get to folks who've already asked questions, is there anyone out there who has not yet asked a question that would like to ask a question? I'm opening up the floor to you folks. So just want to make sure before I open it up to folks who've already asked a question, is there anyone out there who would like to? I see Dark Rider. Dark Rider, I'm going to give you megaphone privilege. Oh, Dark Rider, nope. Okay,
Nope. Dark
anyone
Rider,
else?
okay.
All good. Okay, I see Jim. Jim, I'm going to give you megaphone access. Here we go.
Thank you. So I work in healthcare, and I also have a background in, I'm a business systems analyst in virtual reality. And I think, Molly, the genius of your program was that you didn't get distracted by the technology, and you were focused on effectiveness and the impact, the relationship, the feel that can be generated. And along those lines, we have and we're talking about the idea of leveraging off what you guys did with bringing in we have a theater group, we have healthcare providers, and we have caseworkers, going off the caseworker scenario you did. And our idea is to, could we get a story writer, a kind of the equivalent for theater of a screenwriter, to create a theatrical training initiative that could be flexible, that wouldn't rely on a lot of technology, that could be molded and could be a learning experience. What are your thoughts on that as far as a teaching tool for not only medical professionals and care professionals, but also the general public?
You mean like live, not in virtual reality live? So this has
Right,
been
live.
it has been maybe the last 10 years, got pretty popular as an idea. They're often referred to as simulation rooms, right? Where you take a couple of rooms in your office building and you outfit them like an apartment. And then you hire actors to come in and you put your caseworkers through it to practice sort of home visit and working with families. What I've noticed about them is there's a lot of zeal when they're being created. And once they're created, they're a very heavy lift. Like, so if you're in one state in the United States and you have one simulation room, then your workers from all around the state got to drive the other side of the state. You got to get the actors back in, right? So so that has been a challenge that we've seen. It's very different than immersive learning. So when you're in a headset going through this experience, you're uninterrupted. Nobody's saying, hey, wait a second. That's partly because honestly, when you go to that home visit, your supervisor is not going to be there to interrupt you. You're figuring it out. And so the idea in these simulation rooms is often people are interrupted, asked to roll back, let's roll this back 5 minutes and let's try again. And we want you to be thinking about these things. I think that constant interruption, it has a value, but it's really different than immersive learning. Really different, right? So I guess I'd say I think it has some benefits. I think it's not. I'm an ideologue now about this kind of learning. I think that when you're in the headset, there might be people around you, but you forget that they're around you because you're totally immersed. When you are in a simulation room, you know there are people standing around watching. So now your anxiety is up because you're being watched, and now you're already less focused on the learning objective, right? And it ends up being less about think about how you're thinking and more about get it right. And I'm asking, let's think about how we're thinking.
I wasn't even thinking about that live in the real world. I was actually thinking about a VR staged live performers. But
interesting.
I think that there are still issues compared to what you did. With your
it
work
could be a very interesting companion to it, though. I just here's the thing that I have learned is the technology, if it's not already, will very soon be such that I don't have to script questions on the table. People just could do it as they saw fit, say whatever they felt like saying. That tends to make most people freeze up. It's too blank a slate, right? And so there's something about prompts that help folks get through something.
I've explored live acting just as someone who's involved in immersive interactive theater, someone who's involved in XR. And one thing you have to think about when you have live actors in VR, beyond all the potential technical glitches with streaming and people all having great Wi-Fi to stream those actors into their spaces and actors having great Wi-Fi to stream their acting out into the spaces, is scalability, right? Because you always have to be booking actors. You also have to find you have to be booking actors. You also have to find actors who are really good at VR performance. And there's a very clear subset of people who are incredible at camera acting because we've had hundreds of years to hone that. There's a very clear subset of those folks who can do VR acting. It's very different. And even with theater actors, they struggle with VR because most theater actors aren't as familiar with technology, right? So scalability on a live performance, and while totally doable, and I've seen it done really well, if you are thinking about getting this scaled, 6 days a week, or being able to have people come through there 5 days a week for the next 3 months, you're just going to struggle a little bit, I think, with that scalability factor.
Yeah, great point. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All righty. So we've got about 4 minutes left. I see there's a couple questions, but again, these are people who've asked questions before. Anyone else out there who hasn't? I see a hand waving. Yes, Dark Rider, I'm giving you megaphone access. Awaiting consent. You now have megaphone access.
Oh, hello, hi, can you hear me?
Hello, yes, we can hear you.
My question is, what are the benefits of using a PC VR than using the Oculus Quest 2? I mean, should I get a PC VR, or, should I stick with the Quest 2? I don't know. Just, what are the benefits of actually having a PC one? than using this
I
one.
don't even understand the question, Michaela. Do you want to take that one?
Sure. I guess the question is, Dark Writer, what are you creating or what are you building, or are you just looking to consume content? Can you tell me just a little bit about why
Well, I'm just
you're
curious,
wrestling with the thought?
maybe I should move to the PC, or, can I do that with the Quest 2, or do I need a PC to do that?
To do what exactly is my question to you.
Like build places here in all space and whatnot, worlds and whatnot.
Gotcha. Well, I would say it depends on what you prefer. Some world builders prefer PC based. It is more expensive because you have to have the PC to run the headset.
Yes,
You're also going to
exactly.
look at a higher price point for the VR headset. But if you have a background in game engine design, if you have a background in 3D modeling software, PC VR will be your easiest workflow. But if you're one of those people who have just I have a lot of friends who've come from just the general artistic background and they're really interested in world building, and they find working natively in headset, mainly in Horizon Worlds, which is Quest's headset. I know Altspace has world packages you can use, but I'm more familiar with Horizon Worlds. They prefer to just be in headset and use all the tools in headset. It's similar to the question I think you're asking me is if I wanted to do a VR paint experience, should I use just VR animation player and Oculus Quill as my tools, or should I look at using the paint tool on PC and importing that to VR? So it's really going to be a personal question. There's positives and negatives, pros and
Thank
cons
you.
to both. Can we give a big round of applause? Any heart emojis, any applause emojis to Molly today for presenting such an incredible project. Congratulations again on your VR award for 2021. Anyone who's interested in submitting to the 2022 awards, please stay in touch with AIXR. Please stay in touch with VR Awards. Follow Molly's work through Accenture.com/avenues. And thank you so much again for attending this Ask Me Anything session. Have a wonderful day, y'all.